With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Pick some up at Quick Trip today.
Carbide Avenue. Or visit our New Leaf Community Garden Facebook page to learn more.
WQEE 99.1 FM would like to thank our listeners and sponsors for all your support. WQEE 99.1 FM, the key, ahead of the game. If you would like to sponsor a show or host your very own show, call 770-347-9947. Ask for Ryan O'Neill. Let your voice be heard. Thank you once again. Call 770-347-9947 to support WQEE The Key.
It's a critical weekend for the Columbus River Dragons as they welcome in the Danbury Hat-Tricks this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Civic Center. With the team sitting 2 and 3 in the standings, key points in the playoff race are on the line every night, and the River Dragons want you to show up and be loud in support. Puck drop is at 7:30 on Friday and Saturday and 4:30 on Sunday. Tickets available at the Civic Center box office or on Ticketmaster. Saturday night is Faith and Family Night. Call 706-507-4625 for more details. See you at the Civic Center this weekend.
You've been around long enough to know good stuff when you hear it. That's why you're here now. Classic Hits, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key.
Welcome to Connecting Hearts. Connecting hearts of women to resources, information, and to one another. Presented by Creative Heart Studios, 18 Perry Street and Noonan. Now here's your host, Marjorie Conway.
Good morning, and I want to thank you for tuning in to listen this morning. I'm Margie Conway from Creative Heart Studio, and this is the Connecting Hearts Network podcast. I'm always not sure which language to use where, but that will be okay. We have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to get right with our guest in a moment. I want to mention that our Connecting Hearts Network is trying to do a little splash for March the 8th, International Women's Day, at Happy Life on 18 Perry Street, where we're based at with the studio. We have people from our network that will be in at all hours of the day to have a meet and greet and speak with you and just tell you, here's what we do and say hello. And we have 1,000 goodie bags that we're going to give out all over town to women to let you know that we're here for you and we appreciate you. So I'll tell you a little bit more details at the end. But right now I want to introduce you to a friend of mine named Olga, and I am not going to try to pronounce her last name because she is from Venezuelan and Ukrainian descent. So Olga and I met maybe 6 months ago. I don't know about that, but she has grown to be a good friend in there, and we have some big plans. But Olga's job primarily is as an English to Spanish and English interpreter, and she's a notary and does legal documents, a lot pertaining to immigration. So if you want to tell us a little bit about what you do with that, Olga, and how it helps women with some of the issues that they may have.
Hi. Yes. Thank you, Margie. My name is Olga Figueroa, and as Margie said, proud to be Venezuelan with a Puerto Rican mix and Ukrainian descendant. I currently do immigration procedure forms, help assist people that don't speak English to fill out those forms, and any other matter that has to do with daily life. Families, and every family, or most families, have a mom, right? Has a mother there that is trying to figure out how to register a child in school, how to get them with their shots to reach them in school, what do I need to do to be here legal, my process, in immigration, and anything else that has to do with life, daily life. I also draft documents, just like you said. I draft professional documents for any field out there, not just immigration. I love my job. I totally understand. I was an immigrant, just like everyone. I came to this country in 1988. And I totally understand how difficult it can be when you are navigating a system, you don't know it, it's unfamiliar to you, and then the language is a barrier. So the communication between two parties or three parties, in whatever field it is, I love that part of my job. So be it written or be it orally, verbally. So
that's really good. I'm going to have to take advantage of those services. I might need a legal document pretty soon. Now everybody's going to wonder about that. But in high school, I didn't take Spanish like everybody else because I have never wanted to be like everybody else. So I took French for 4 years, and I only had one person to speak it to in the last 40 years, so I don't do very well at that either. But one of our goals with Olga being part of our network is we have some classes and different things that we do with women, and she's going to help interpret those into Spanish so that we can reach the Spanish-speaking population that needs the services that we can do.
Yes, I am really excited about that. And now that you mention languages, I also speak Portuguese. And as funny as it is, let me tell you the story about that very briefly. And I love languages because of what I explained before. When I arrived here at the United States in 1988, I was 18, and the community I was moving into was 98% Portuguese descendant from the Azore Islands. And boy, like my friends say, I can make even rocks talk. Well, and it was really hard to communicate with people out there in English because I had the English base from living in Puerto Rico, by the way. Puerto Rico, I consider, is part of my culture. I was born in Venezuela, but I lived 4.5 years in Puerto Rico, and Ukrainian maternal grandparents. But moving to Fall River, Massachusetts. Hello, everybody. If anybody will hear that it's connected to Massachusetts, great community. In trying to talk to people, communicate, at the job I was doing at the time, it felt suffocating. I felt like I was running out of oxygen. And luckily, I had a coworker that was from Lisbon, Portugal, and she really wanted to speak Spanish better. And so we made a deal. I'll teach you Portuguese, and I'll teach her Spanish. Okay. And that was awesome. I worked there for a year. That's how I learned the Portuguese language. And then when I lived in Orlando, Florida, before moving here, that has been one of the most difficult things of living here, by the way. In Orlando, there's a lot of people from Brazil. So when I speak Portuguese, because of my Spanish background, I sound like Brazilian at times. But I love it. I communicate. I get the message. I don't know how to write it or read it, but I can speak it.
Oh, and boy, can she speak it, because I had 3 or 4 people say, you're not going to keep Olga down to 30 minutes. And I told her that. And, our goal every week is to see how many times we can get Ryan to laugh on that. And so on the episodes that we tape, we're going to have some canned laughter somewhere in there. Communication is so important. It causes so many problems. And in some of the studies that we've done together, just communicating with your spouse is hard to do. So, it is especially important when there's language barriers to be able to get that out. And then with women from other cultures, I have learned more in the Her Journey studies that I'm doing. Other cultures, their family styles are different than the U.S.
Correct.
Women in the U.S. complain all the time, but I tell you what, we got it good. And we need to handle it correctly, and that's part of what we want to do. All right, Miss Olga has a lot to do, so I am going to let her start talking a little bit about that because it is very important work. And one of the things that she is getting a certification for at this time is called a Thana Doula. Originally, the word for that would be Death Doula, and that would be something even my husband said, what is that? And so I went and read up on it so I would know, and I think that it is a service that would make a big difference. It would have to be in situations I've been in the past. So why don't you tell us what a Thana Doula is and how that works?
Wow, Margie, now you put me into the hot water. But I'll be more than glad to share. Okay, what is the Death Doula? Correct, just like you said, it's commonly known as the Death Doula. It has existed for centuries, believe it or not. And today's days, there are many people that might not even know that they have the skills of a Death Doula. I mean, there's so much that you can do as a Death Doula. But I chose, as I am doing the certification, from the options we have of calling it, that service I'm going to provide, spiritual service, emotional service, actually, I should say, emotional spirit. I chose Thana Doula. There's a couple of terms: soul midwife, Thana Doula, funeral services advisor or advocate. I like that one too, community advocate. Basically, let me share with you first how I got inspired to get into this field.
Yes.
And that's the question that most people ask me. And my friends, by the way, because of what inspired me when they found out I was doing this, they were like, are you okay, Olga? Are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm better than ever.
Oh, Olga, when we talk in our other classes and things that we do, one of the big points is the things that we've gone through in life is as we heal from them and we got into that journey is that we're able to turn that around and help other people. And that is so much what you're doing with this.
Yes, Margie. Like we said, since 2015, I've been working with immigration-related paperwork, administrative paperwork. That's very important. I am a form procedure consultant, okay? But not only in immigration. And then I also do draft documents, et cetera, et cetera. But a life experience that I went through in 2019, September 2019, I had a son, 21 years old, that passed. Wow. When you talk about culture and understanding death, I thought I understood death. Mm-hmm. I had lost a grandmother, 2 of them, obviously at their proper time by age, right. Naturally from aging. I miss them a lot. But losing my son, wow, has been the hardest thing in my life.
I can't imagine.
As a mother, obviously, as a mom's perspective, it was a tragic death, so that made it even double pain, could say. Or there's pain when we lose a loved one, but if anyone out there listening, when you lose someone that by nature you're not thinking is going to die before you, obviously it's very difficult. So I found myself in a, like you could say, a dark area in my life, the darkest, because I questioned my faith.
Right.
I argue with God. I've heard of people talking about this, but I know what it's like when you are just saying why. The reason why I'm in Noonan, Georgia, as a matter of fact, is because I came to be closer to those 2 sons. Right. That's important to share, because when this happens, then it hits you harder, hit me harder. I couldn't understand why God will do this to me.
Right. And we do that. I mean, we question God, and it's okay to question God. Read the book of Job. He questioned and questioned. We don't always get the answers, or especially the answers that we want, but he always knows best.
Amen. Excuse me. So, of course, after he passes, first thing is you got to hang on to your faith.
Right.
You got to hang on to your faith as strong as you can. But we humans tend to resist change, resist the idea that things end.
Right.
And my first connection, and I'm very proud to share this also, is a nonprofit organization. I remember telling you that story. A good friend, Holly, by the way. Holly, I'm talking about connecting hearts and mentoring. Holly has been a crucial person since I moved here. This girl knows a lot, what I've gone through. And I remember reaching out to her one day desperate. And another person also told me about Coweta Force.
Yes.
I had no insurance at the time, and I know there's tons of people out there, but women, listen carefully, right? When we are in that stage, I'm self-employed. At the time, I had no insurance, health insurance. So I had to think of, okay, how do I get a therapist? But finding a therapist, because I will need help.
Right.
Okay, I knew that. It's not something I was planning for.
Oh, absolutely. So, definitely not.
Thinking about how will we find a therapist and a place, and, someone told me to go to Coweta Force. But I knew Coweta Force helped a lot in the community. Mm-hmm. I knew it had to do with addiction and alcohol, rehab, and all that. But I just one day dropped my daughter to school, and I was such a desperate mode emotionally. Mm-hmm. I was dropped her off, and I used to drive around in circles. And that took like about a month. But anyhow, one of those mornings, I just said, it was one of those things that you say, okay, I need to find a way I need help.
Yes.
I needed to talk with somebody. I was driving my soulmate
and
emotionally.
That is perfectly
talking about
okay,
how
too.
I felt, and family, and my sons.
Yes.
I'm a mother of 6. I had the 5 of them there. Mike is in heaven. But I walked into Coweta Force. And I want to, if you allow me, to say thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
To the coach, Billy. Mm-hmm. Wonderful lady. I walked in. She was there. She looked at me and, how can I help you? And I looked fine. I looked, hey, normal. Right. I mean, I wasn't. And I explained to her that I was looking for a therapist. And then, long story short, just to make this long, because it's a long story, and like everybody says, this is true. They knows me very well. I can be here hours. It was a blessing, because that day I was feeling very down. And, she pulled me in and said, what can I help you with? I said, well, I need a therapist. And I don't remember at what point, in less than 5 minutes, I started crying. Because I was really very vulnerable. I mean, I was very sensitive too. And she said, come on, get in the room. And we talked for almost 3 hours. Now, why I mentioned this is important. Obviously, Coweta Force, thanks to her, after listening to me for almost 3 hours, connects me to a resource of bereaved parenting. Bereaved parents.
So let me interrupt for just a second there. And that's another thing that we point out a lot when we do our studies. First of all, we wear our masks. Everything's fine. Everything's fine until we just can't keep saying everything's fine. And it is more than okay to reach out and ask for help. And it's okay to ask people, are you okay? Do you need help? But and she mentioned Holly, and Holly has given me some resources that her and some other people have worked on for Coweta to Force and other things, because there is many agencies and things going on in this county that if you did not know about, you can get help when you need it. You just have to ask. And I'm sure that's true for any other area that would be listening to this, not just Coweta County, but I know that we are overflowing with help here. But I didn't know that until I started asking.
Yes, we do have lots of resources and organizations, non-profit organizations that are really passionate and have vocation for what they're doing.
Right.
Humans, in the U.S. culture, because by the way, of course, we share that I am not originally from here, and throughout the years, after 30 years plus living here, is the culture, the medical aspect of it. Because by the way, I forgot to mention that I have an associate degree in medical office administration, right, which I completed from 2011 to 2014. At the time, I was pursuing to do that and using my languages to work as a front office specialization person. Right. I would remember reading, because I'm very involved with medical the field. I like integrative medicine, holistic. I've always felt connected to that. My father is very knowledgeable about natural medicine. And when I was doing college, when I was finishing my degree, I started looking into integrative medicine, and there was not many places in Orlando, Florida at the time. So, all in all, I have people coming from my country. That's important to me. How I get connected to the immigration field is because lots of people were coming from Venezuela, as anyone will know by now, because it has been ongoing for like 15 years. It's due to the situation in Venezuela. And in my community, I was a notary, I was an interpreter, I was a translator, the manager of the community, the condo community, started sending people to my house. Margie, God works in amazing ways. Honestly, I found myself with an office, creating an office space with a printer, because there was the need. Right. And all of a sudden one day someone just asked that key question. Hey, I need to do this. Can you do it? And I asked.
God does that. He gives you gifts and talents, and He puts you in place to do what He needs you to do at that time. We just have to be willing to say yes and do it. Kind of like this radio program. I was talking to somebody the other day in December. No, I wouldn't even go out and talk to Ryan out in the lobby of where I'm at. I wasn't going to do a radio program. And nobody else would have ever thought that before. Yeah. So God puts us where we are needed. Now, I did interrupt you a while ago when you were saying that Billy sent you to the parent bereavement group.
Yes, Billy sent me connected me with a group called Helping Parents Heal. Yeah. It's non-denominational, and obviously it's the group that nobody wants to join voluntarily. Right. And that's how we say it. And when we welcome a new person in the group. Through that group, I connected with the ladies that manage the group. We met in person. They live in Peachtree City, wonderful women. I'd like to invite them to come. Sure. I already told them. I'm very excited about Connecting Hearts. And, one of the people in charge of the group works at a hospice in Newnan. It's called Sacred Journey. And she's a hospice volunteer. She actually is the person that talked to me, of course, all these years. Now, remember, back in 2019, we connect around November when I went to Coweta Force, and Coweta Force then provided that resource. I connected with them, and since then, it has been finding ways to help. I love this, what I'm going to say. I have a workbook. It's called Love Knows No Death, Transforming Grief. Okay? Right. Wow. That was great. Is trying to understand why. I know I was born into the Roman Catholic faith. I believe in God. Of course, I know that there's a supreme being up above that has the control. Mm-hmm. He's the boss.
Anybody that doesn't believe that just needs to look around, because it's all around you, that someone designed it intelligently for a purpose. And
there's a plan, and our plans come second.
Right. That's if that's
true.
So
I went through that journey, the grieving journey, which made me go in depth about understanding. Let me say this, because this is exactly what I needed to understand what happened. I don't see him physically, but that's it. It's gone. Right. I'm not going to ever. I have his memories, but I needed to feel that it was not true, that this is it. This is the end of it. Right. Makes sense? And so I got this book, referral to this book through the group. Then moving forward, wow. I'm trying to remember where was the line. And apologies, extra crunchy here. I always use that term. And then, of course, after losing my son, things that you take a break and connecting into life because you feel suspended in time, for a period of time. But after I met, I was telling you about Jean Duramis. She lives in Peachtree City. She talked to me about one day, we have become very good friends, and one day, like a month ago, she's telling me, Olga, I'm looking into certifying as a death doula. What? I have the same expression that everybody does when I tell them. That's why I stopped using death doula, by the way. But she goes, death doula, and I'm like, what the heck is that? What is that? Death doula. We tend to go in the negative mode because normal. Right. Who wants to think of death? Only when you are facing death, be it you personally, or be it a loved one, or be it naturally, or be it by tragic death, okay? That it could be in many ways, accidents, suicide. We have so much of that going in the community. I know in Coweta County, in Georgia. But anyhow, I researched, and believe it or not, Jean was impressed that within 2 weeks later, I was giving her resources of where to get certification because she hadn't gotten to that part of the and she's still to this day. She lost a son due to a car accident. She is a little bit afraid of doing the course. Right. She doesn't know, but she didn't know what it involved, and we'll get to that in a minute. Because when people think of death doula, unfortunately, and I've had good friends telling me this, Olga, I don't blame anyone thinking that, what are you going to do? You're going to help somebody? No, I'm a God-given, I was given life by God, and life is to be respected. Right. And I will never do anything that will go against living. Right. But I will go into details as soon as you let me.
Oh, go right ahead. You have maybe 6 minutes. Go right ahead.
Okay. When people hear death doula, and as we said at the very beginning, I decided to adopt the name Thanatoula. Thanatoula comes from the word thanatology. Thanatology, for many people, I didn't know about this, but when I looked up death doula, the word comes up, the whole science comes up, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And I told her, I told Jean, I said, Jean, wow, did you know what thanatology is? And she goes, no, what? I said, has to do with your death doula. And we were all in awe and shock, and it's like, wow, I never heard that word. Because again, the culture doesn't want to talk about that.
Oh, right.
In thanatology, it's a science that studies anything, any aspect about death, before, during, or after. The people that are mostly familiar with this science or this subject are funeral owners, funeral homes owners, obviously for obvious reasons, morgues, hospitals, hospices, nursing homes, and their volunteers may be trained. Some do it voluntarily, and that's what Jean wanted to do. She was looking into becoming, being certified, so she could understand how to help very ill, terminally ill patients, more than just sitting there and being a companion. And
all right, I went through hospice twice with family members, and they were very helpful, and I'm not, I don't know what we would have done without them. Actually, if you count the center out in Texas with my mother-in-law, that's the third one. But from what you've told me about this, it goes beyond what a hospice worker would do. So tell us a little bit about, little specific things they could do. I'll be as brief
as I can, because I'll tell you this. I had some expectations of what we were going to talk about. But boy, I'm still surprised every week of what I'm learning. And next week will be our last week.
Oh, good.
It's a 6-week intensive course. It's mostly materials left for us to read. But one of my most aha moments was, okay, I was thinking, I'm going to go to a hospital, and I'm going to sit there and just listen. I know about talk.
Right.
If they want to talk, if they like talking, because that's the other thing. Some people don't like talking. So then they like to be read. You can read poems, you can sing.
Right.
Okay, I'm just talking about what you can do as a death doula or Thana doula. I chose that. It just sounds friendlier. Okay. So a Thana doula, wow. My favorite thing that I'm looking into is educating the community where I live in about the subject.
Right.
Any age. Now that can ramify. There can be a lot of ramifications there. It's educating people about, okay, what happens when a loved one dies? What are my options?
Right.
I don't need to have this, A, B, or C. I have all the options. Being there as an emotional support. Other part that I like about the course, just to share a little bit of it, legacy project. Something called a legacy project. I thought that was very awesome. Our instructor shared a story. She's from Canada, Ontario, Canada. She shared a story about a man that is not terminally ill, has no expiration date, reached out to her and said, I'd like you to help me organize a get-together with my family. Mm-hmm. She thought he was coming to her because he was ill.
Right.
So she asked him, naturally, are you sick, or are you, what's happening? Like, are you dying? And he goes, nope, I'm perfectly fine. No, hear this, right? I love that story. And she goes, that was my first client that ever approached me. And all he wanted was for the Thana Doula to help him organize an event with the family to make them reflect about their lives now before he died. Isn't that amazing?
Right.
That was my favorite.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay. So I would like to make a difference. I'm blessed to speak 3 languages, but as a part of Connecting Hearts is to educate our women to learn, how they can advocate for their families.
And that would be good to run a class like that for caregivers to come to, because I'm getting reached out by the people who are caregivers for other people that needs to know what to do. So those legacy projects you were talking about, you've mentioned that before to me.
Just a few, yeah.
That's awesome. And when I was, looking to the rest of what you do, it helps people get the things in order before their death, their family members and the person who's there, and it helps them walk through it and then after it to make sure you have the memorial that you need, you have the legacy that you need to carry on, because the person who passes is always a part of our life. They never leave us.
That's the most beautiful thing, too, by the way. And then as part of that, I'm also adding to the things that I'm just telling you briefly, like lightly, what I already have my eyes on is healing therapy art sessions.
Right.
And that's because I've seen places that do it. I know you do. I'm doing that at home as a therapy for me.
Well, we're going to get you to come back in here and let's talk about art therapy, because you have a venue and we wanted to do art by the pond as a therapy thing. So we're going to get you back in here for that. But it's about time that we close up now. So thank you for coming to share your story.
Thank you. No, thank you.
You know what? We can always film more of it and put it on Facebook down from the studio. And it's been good to have you in here to look at things. I know from being a church secretary for many years, there was a difference in those that had a deep faith and we knew where they were going, as opposed to the ones who had no idea what was happening. And I much prefer a celebration of life than a deep mourning. No matter what way we go. So let me come to our Connecting Hearts Network. This is another way that we want to reach out is with Olga and her translation and her training to be able to reach other members, however we can help people. I want to say a little bit about the International Women's Day that we're doing Tuesday. From 8 to 8 at Happy Life Nutrition, which is where Creative Hearts Studio is. We will be there. Some different people will be there every hour. We will have door prizes. We will have goodie bags. And then our members, as they go through their day and they're at their other businesses, they're going to have goodie bags for women that will have some coupons and a little friendship kit and stuff in there, because our goal is to get 1,000 bags out. So if you see somebody walking around with what looks like a Valentine treat bag, you go up and say, oh, you're Connecting Hearts Network. I need one of them, because you don't know it yet, but you do. I've been working on endings for this thing ever since I started this thing, and now we actually have signs up down there on Perry Street, and you can find the Connecting Heart Network on Facebook, on Instagram, on all that stuff under Connecting Hearts Network. You can find our podcast through those links. You can find Creative Heart Studio on all those things and at creativehearttherapy.net. And if you're looking for me in particular, or you want to ask how to get a hold of Olga, because she doesn't.
I'll be there that day.
Right. If you want to find somebody that's been in this network, just like I always say, open the doors up and down Perry Street and yell Margie, and eventually I'll come out and we can connect you to where we need to go.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm so proud to have met. And through Her Journey, the program you do is another way of being part of that healing process.
Yes, ma'am.
Tremendous difference, and you know that.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Connecting Hearts with Marjorie Conway. Connecting hearts of women to resources, information, and to one another. Presented by Creative Heart Studios, 18 Perry Street, here in Noonan. 404-528-8461. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out.